The wedding cars zoomed away as soon as they saw Daniel and Sarah get in. They must have thought Daniel was the groom because the whole convoy took off immediately. My dad was completely astonished. He looked over at me and asked, "What is Sarah thinking? Is she really running off with some other guy on her wedding day?" My mom was livid too, and immediately pulled out her phone to call Sarah. "That girl! I'm going to call her right now and demand to know what in the world she thinks she's doing." I put a hand up to stop them. "Look, if she wants to marry someone else, that's her choice. It's not our problem," I said, feeling absolutely drained. "Let's just go to sleep." After that, I told the makeup artist he could pack up and leave. He looked pretty confused, clearly never having seen a situation like this before. Because it all happened so quickly and all our relatives were already at the venue, my parents simply had to tell everyone to treat the gathering as a family dinner. I hadn't even managed to fall asleep yet when Sarah called me. "Alex, where are you? It's our wedding day. Why are you acting so childish?" I could practically hear the rage vibrating through the phone. I let out a big yawn and answered her calmly. "What wedding? Didn't you already leave with your groom? I'm going to bed. Don't call me again." I hung up, and then, feeling pretty satisfied, opened the TikTok app to scroll through some funny videos. But I was shocked to find myself watching Daniel's live stream. On the video, his eyes were red-rimmed, and his voice was shaky with emotion. The groom refused to show up for the wedding just because I'm better looking than him, and then his whole family embarrassed me in front of everyone. I was completely bewildered by what I was hearing. The way he set up his camera was smart. It only showed his head and nothing else. Clueless people in the comments were slamming me. OMG, how unbelievably insecure can the groom be? He can't handle someone being better looking than him. The groom must be a horrible person, LOL. Don't worry, man. You look way better than him. He's the one who should be embarrassed. A tiny look of triumph flashed across Daniel's face. I quickly found a photo I had taken earlier that day and posted it right into his stream's comments. "Hey buddy, is this the suit you wore to someone else's wedding?" Daniel's face instantly lost all color, and he scrambled to shut down the live stream. But you know how fast things spread online. People were already flooding the comments. "OMG, I actually thought the groom was the insecure one. I can't believe this. Anyone who didn't know better would think it was his wedding. The groom's family is being nice by not beating him up. He's the real bad guy." My phone immediately started blowing up with messages from Sarah and her family. When she realized I was ignoring her, she switched to trying to sweet-talk me. "Sweetheart, I was wrong. I shouldn't have left without you today. Can you please text me back?" Daniel knows he was wrong too. I already yelled at him, "Can you come to the hotel and pay for the reception?" "Please, honey." I almost laughed out loud from sheer frustration. She takes another man to her own wedding and then expects me to pay the bill for the reception? When I didn't reply, she called an hour later from my aunt's phone. "Can you pick a better time to be angry? The manager is holding me here in front of both our families, and everyone is laughing at me. Are you happy now? Don't forget, we're married. We're a team, and when one of us looks bad, we both look bad. Get over here and pay the bill so you don't embarrass us in front of our relatives." Sarah said all of this with such certainty, as if she was sure I would rush over just to save face. But I'm not like her. I don't care that much about appearances. Sarah and I met through an introduction. 3 years ago, her mother passed away from a long illness. While her mother was sick, Sarah worked 3 different jobs every day without ever complaining. My parents thought she was a genuinely kind and dedicated daughter, so they didn't mind that her family didn't have much money. But I never imagined she would expect me to pay the remaining reception bill for an event I didn't even attend. I wasn't there, so what reception was she even talking about? "I already paid for 60% of the bill. You can handle the remaining 40% yourself." After saying that, I hung up and turned on my Do Not Disturb mode. Someone messaged my parents, saying Sarah was refusing to let anyone leave and was waiting for me to come pay. since she couldn't afford to cover the cost for all the guests from our side. My dad nearly slammed his hand on the table. That Sarah seemed so honest. How could she do something so utterly shameless? Doesn't she know how many guests she invited? Alex, tell everyone to just leave. We paid for 60% of it, so technically, we're the ones eating for free off her family's tab. After hanging up, my dad was so angry he wanted to drive over to Sarah's family and demand an explanation, but my mom quickly tried to calm him down. Dad, it's a good thing we found out now, I said calmly, leaning back on the sofa. It's better than finding out what Sarah is really like after we've had kids. My dad froze. He looked at me, then at my mom. Son, you want a divorce? Yeah? My parents had chosen Sarah because they thought she was responsible. They figured that after they were gone, someone would be there to take care of me. They didn't ask her for anything. No house, no car. My dad paid for everything. But now, if Sarah could pull a stunt like this on her own wedding day, what could we possibly expect from her in the future? Good boy, you wait here. I'll go make some calls, my dad said. He and my mom quickly left our apartment. As soon as they were gone, I called 2 cleaning services and told them to throw out all of Sarah's belongings. If we were getting a divorce, she needed to move out of my house. What do you think you're doing? Who told you to touch my things? Sarah and Daniel returned just as the cleaners were taking the last bag of her stuff to the door. Alex, are you serious? Just because Daniel wore a red suit, you're making this into a huge deal and throwing me out of the house? Do you have any idea how embarrassed I was in front of my relatives today? If Daniel hadn't used his credit card to help me, I'd still be stuck there. You're my husband, for goodness sake. My friend was willing to help me, and what did you do? You act like you're terrified I'll spend a single one of your pennies. Sarah was shouting hysterically, chewing me out the second she saw me at the door. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. I just calmly paid the cleaners, asked them to take the trash out on their way, and didn't even glance at her the whole time. As I was about to close the door, Sarah blocked it. Are you even listening to me? Fine, what Daniel did was wrong, but are you completely innocent? I'm your wife. You could at least show some concern for my reputation. Alex, couples shouldn't go to bed angry, Daniel added. You can't just lock Sarah out. Besides, I've already made up for my mistake, so don't be mad at her anymore. I looked at the 2 of them and their little performance, feeling completely speechless. Where was all this remorse when they were live streaming from the reception? I looked at Sarah, who was still holding the door, and kicked her hard in the stomach. While she was bent over in pain, I slammed the door shut and bolted it from the inside. Just as I expected, the sound of Sarah screaming insults came from outside. I walked over and pulled up the security camera feed for outside the door. On the screen, Sarah and Daniel were muttering and cursing as they gathered their things. After a moment, Daniel leaned in and whispered, Hey, Sarah, why don't you go beg him to take you back? Then once he gets some other woman pregnant, you'll have him right where you want him. Sarah scoffed. He's getting off easy. Then she took Daniel's hand, her eyes full of pity. I just feel so bad for you. Don't worry. As soon as we get the money, we'll get married. They hugged as they spoke, and I watched from behind the monitor, completely stunned. So Sarah couldn't give her childhood sweetheart a good life, so she came to me just to cash in, and she wanted me to have kids? In her dreams. I saved the camera footage to my phone and sent a copy to my parents. I thought I just had to wait for the divorce, but that afternoon, I got a call from the police station. They said I was being accused of demanding money from my fiancé and told me to come down. I was confused. Demanding money? The $6,600 Sarah gave me? I paid for the house and the car, and $6,600 is considered demanding money? Sir, Your wife wrote a letter and is kneeling in sus. Front of City Hall, refusing to leave. We have no choice but to ask you to come down, the officer said. Okay. When I got to the police station, not only was Sarah there, but so was her mother. Alex, the money we gave you back then was borrowed. We just can't pay it back now. Her mother had barely gotten the words out before she started dabbing at her eyes, about to cry. Sarah stood beside her, glaring at me as if I were some terrible son-in-law bullying her poor mother. The $6,600? I'll give it back to you. We were getting a divorce anyway, so it didn't matter if I gave it to them now. Sarah didn't seem to expect it to be that easy, and a smile immediately appeared on her face. But when she looked at her mother, her expression changed to one of conflict. Alex, shouldn't it be $28,800? You can't give us that big of a discount just because we were only married for a week, can you? I was stunned. $28,800 was the amount our family had initially discussed, but Sarah's family never gave us that much. Sarah, have you no shame? You know exactly how much your family gave us. But isn't that how much your family asked for in the beginning? You should return the amount you asked for. Listening to Sarah's crazy yet self-righteous argument, my head was spinning. I glanced at the police officers, who were all just staring at each other in bewilderment. Seeing that we were silent, Sarah's mother made a move like she was going to ram her head into the wall of the police station. I can't go on. Honey, I'm coming to join you. Mom, don't do this. The police will definitely help us get that $29,000 back. Great. Not even a minute later, and the price went up by another $200. Then let's go to court, I said calmly. We can get a divorce and divide the assets. I wouldn't want to keep you and Daniel apart. At the mention of that, Sarah's mother stopped her dramatics. Sarah looked at me in disbelief. Who said anything about divorce? I just need you to return the gift money. Besides, we're married now. Do we really have to be so clear about what's yours and what's mine? That's when I realized why Sarah didn't talk to me about this in private, but made a scene at the police station instead. The money was given to me before we got our marriage license. To prove her love for me to my dad, she even wrote a voluntary gift agreement. She must have realized it wasn't a solid legal claim, which is why she came here to cause a scene. Just then, my dad arrived at the station with our lawyer. Of course, we need to be clear about things for a divorce. I brought our lawyer, and we're going to settle everything here at the police station today, my dad said, sitting down next to me with the lawyer. When Sarah saw my dad, her expression changed instantly. She forced a smile. Dad, I wasn't thinking about divorce. Alex and I were just having a little fight. Her mom muttered, A divorced man isn't worth much. My dad snorted. We don't need you to worry about that. Mr. Wallace, please calculate what each party needs to return in the divorce. As for you, Sarah, that job you have, I pulled some strings to get it for you. Now those strings are cut. Whether you get fired or not is your own problem. Seeing things escalate to the point where a divorce agreement was being drafted, Sarah panicked. She seemed to have never expected it to go this far. When she spoke again, her voice was trembling. Dad, don't joke around. Alex, say something. If it looks okay, sign it, I said, pointing to the document, not wanting to waste another word on her. Sarah stared at the divorce agreement, which stated she'd get nothing back. After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly laughed. Well, Dad, since it's come to this, I won't hold back. To be honest, your son has AIDS. If I divorce him, I'll be alone for the rest of my life. What did you say? My dad shot up, rushed over to me, and pushed up my sleeves, looking for any spots or rashes. My mind went blank as I stared down at my own skin. Nothing. My dad checked both my arms and my neck. After confirming there was nothing there, he let out a half breath of relief and turned to demand of Sarah, What's going on? Sarah sat there like she owned the place, looking completely unconcerned. Her mother was even more outrageous, shrieking, "So that's why you demanded so much money? You have AIDS and were afraid your wife's family would call off the wedding. My daughter got the worst of this deal. We want more money, $800,000, a penny less and the divorce is on. Do you know who my daughter is? There's a line of men waiting to marry her. Daniel is such a good man. I don't know how we let a man with AIDS marry into our family." Her mother's words grew uglier, and my dad started arguing with her. When my dad stepped forward, she immediately started crying loudly and clinging to a police officer, claiming that the father of an AIDS patient was talking to her, and she felt like she was going to get infected, and that my dad would have to take care of her for the rest of her life. The scene quickly became chaotic. The police officers stood by, their brows furrowing deeper and deeper. As I watched Sarah, I slowly calmed down. The disease has specific ways it is spread. I hadn't been sexually active, nor had I been injured or exposed to anything. Logically, there was no way I could have been infected. The only outsider I'd had close contact with was Sarah. And from what I knew of her, if she were sick, she wouldn't be this relaxed. She was most likely lying. "Dad, don't worry. It's not that easy to catch it. Sarah, since you're claiming I have AIDS, where's your proof? 5 days ago, you drank from the same cup as someone with AIDS." 5 days ago, while my dad and I were trying to remember, Sarah continued. "I ran into an old acquaintance that day and invited her over for a glass of water. I wasn't paying attention and accidentally gave her your cup. And as luck would have it, her gums were bleeding that day." "But," Sarah said, turning to the police as if to reassure them, "I only just found out she has AIDS. I had already accepted that my husband was a patient and was prepared to spend the rest of my life with him. But alas, I never expected this." My dad, ignoring Sarah's sarcasm, looked at me nervously and asked if I had drunk any water that day. I remembered the scene and slowly nodded. I hadn't just had a sip, I'd had 2 full glasses. I recalled how eager Sarah had been that day, insisting I try the new tea she'd learned to brew. A knot formed in my throat. No wonder she was so insistent. Once the memory clicked into place, my mind went blank. A wave of heat rushed through my body, and I couldn't stop shaking. I was infected. The sudden shock brought a flood of thoughts. Getting sick, my parents' death. I lost all awareness of my surroundings. "Honey, don't be scared. I love you. I don't mind that you're sick, really." "Get away from him. Alex, let's go. Dad's taking you to the hospital." "You can't leave. You haven't paid me yet." Sarah's mother, seeming to sense my vulnerability, saw her chance to demand money from us. She scrambled to block the door. $28,800. Not a penny less. It's your son who's sick anyway. If you don't pay up, let's see who can wait it out longer. Every minute you delay is a minute less he has to get treatment." My dad was furious and immediately pulled out his phone, ready to transfer the money to her. "I'm warning you, this is a police station. If you continue to cause a scene, we can arrest you." The moment Sarah's mom pulled out her phone for the transfer, an officer stepped forward and pulled her aside. My dad seized the opportunity and rushed me out. The heater was blasting in the car, fogging up the windows, but I felt cold to the bone. My mind was empty as I stared out the window, not knowing what to think. Suddenly, my dad started laying on the horn, and the piercing sound snapped me back to reality. My dad is a very careful driver. In my memory, this was the first time he had ever done that. Seeing his panicked expression, I suddenly understood her threat. Every minute you delay. And it was replaced by an intense calm. "Dad, it's okay. You can drive slowly," I said peacefully. I even had the presence of mind to open Daniel and Sarah's social media feeds. Daniel had just updated his status a minute ago. The caption read, "My girlfriend loves me so much. She's willing to put up with a spoiled, rich brat with AIDS just to give me the best." The picture was of a Van Cleef & Arpels watch. Sarah's post was about my supposed diagnosis, asking for advice on what she should do as my wife. Sarah and I had a few mutual friends, like my buddy, Mark. He saw the posts and immediately sent me a string of voice messages asking what was going on. "Sarah's just making this up, right? You haven't even been with anyone. How could you be infected?" She deliberately made me drink water contaminated with an infected person's blood. Saying it out loud, I was calmer than I thought I would be. The other end went silent. "I'm at the hospital now, getting registered." I took my dad's phone and called Mr. Wallace, telling him that no matter what, I wanted to divorce Sarah. Now that it had come to this, I had to think about my parents. The money they had worked so hard to save couldn't fall into Sarah's hands. "Dad, you know my immune system has always been weak, and I have a sensitive stomach. If I really were positive and I died early, you and Mom should—" "Don't say that! Don't you dare!" my dad cried, his eyes turning red as he kept honking the horn. "The virus can't survive long outside the body. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." I nodded and turned my head, telling him to slow down. A few minutes wouldn't make a difference. When we got to the hospital, my dad immediately ran to get me registered. "Doctor, how is my son? Is it positive or negative? Does he need PEEP?" "We won't have the specific results until tomorrow morning. There's a limited time window for PP, and it's been too long for him. But based on your description, there's a 99.9% chance he's fine." The doctor then explained why HIV becomes inactive within minutes of being exposed to air. Based on my story, far more time had passed. Besides, the water I drank showed no visible traces of blood, meaning the viral load wouldn't have been nearly enough for transmission. Hearing this, my dad let out a huge sigh of relief and smiled. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much." Worried something else might happen, my dad had me admitted to the hospital right away. "Alex, all the paperwork is done. I'm going to see if I can find something good to eat. Remember to call in sick to your boss, okay?" "Okay." Sitting on the hospital bed and thinking about what the doctor had said, I smiled too. It felt so good. After changing into a hospital gown, I opened my phone, ready to share the good news with Mark, but Daniel walked in. "What are you doing here?" "How else am I supposed to get evidence to blackmail you?" Daniel said, completely ignoring the other patients and their families. He walked straight up to me, flashed his new watch, and opened the photo gallery on his phone. "Alex, what good is being born rich? Now you can't protect your money or your life, can you? I hear those medications are hard on the liver. With your weak constitution, how many years do you think you'll last?" He then showed me a picture on his phone. It was a photo of me from my doctor's visit just moments ago. I didn't understand, and as soon as I moved, he snatched the phone back. "I've already backed it up, so deleting it won't do you any good. $2 million, Alex. You don't want your reputation ruined before you die, do you? Office workers and old ladies love to gossip. If you don't pay up, I'll make sure these pictures get spread all over your workplace and your neighborhood." I scoffed. "Where do you get the nerve, thinking a few photos are worth $2 million? Spreading false information about someone is illegal. You could go to jail for that, Daniel." "Are you willing to bet on it? Sarah's mom doesn't seem like the type who'd want a son-in-law with a prison record. Don't try to scare me. I didn't kill anyone." "Why would I go to jail?" he said, flashing the photo at me again. "Are you going to pay or not? If you don't, I'm going to get these printed right now." "Do whatever you want. You just wait." After Daniel left, I messaged Mark and told him what the doctor had said. I thought he'd be happy, but instead, he seriously forwarded me a video. "Then you need to see this." Sarah is trying to build this image of a deeply devoted wife, saying she'll sell everything she owns to pay for your treatment. I opened the video link. Sure enough, Sarah was on screen, sobbing and sniffling about how hard her life was, with a picture of me in the background. I started recording my screen, and then asked Mark to help me pay some people to report Sarah's account and get it banned. With this kind of thing, even if it's fake, if enough people hear it, it can become the truth. Unfortunately, even though the live stream was taken down, many people were moved by this devoted woman and started making promotional videos for her on their own. "Honey, why aren't you home? Where are you now?" Sarah sent me a voice message while my dad and I were picking up my lab results. Negative. Seeing that word, my dad and I both let out a huge breath. "Thank God. Alex, don't worry. I won't let Sarah get away with this," my dad said. I nodded firmly. "It's not just you, Dad. I won't let her get away with it either." Even without direct proof, I knew Sarah had done it on purpose. She knew from the very beginning that the woman had AIDS. Leaving the hospital, my dad and I went our separate ways. He went to pick up my mom, who had been out looking for folk remedies for me, while I went back to our apartment to see how Daniel's little PR campaign was going. As for Sarah's messages, I didn't even bother to reply. Daniel's campaign was effective. The moment I got out of my car, I was met with strange looks from my neighbors. Two of them, who were good friends with my parents, came over wearing masks to ask me what was going on. I showed them my hospital report. Sarah was cheating on me. We're in the middle of a messy divorce, and she pulled this dirty trick to try and get more money out of me. The two neighbors looked at the hospital certificate, sighed in relief, took off their masks, and began to get angry on my behalf. I knew Alex wasn't the kind of person Sarah was making him out to be. I've watched this boy grow up. "Exactly, Alex, you just wait. I'll go set the record straight with the other neighbors. We won't let them misunderstand you." "Thank you so much, ladies." After talking with my neighbors, I was about to head upstairs when I saw a familiar figure. The old acquaintance with AIDS that Sarah had mentioned. Last night, I had reviewed all the security footage from our apartment building, and the woman's face was a perfect match. Sarah had brought her here last time. What was she doing here now? I stood there and watched for a moment. She was just pacing around downstairs, not going in. After thinking it over, I approached her, keeping a safe distance, and asked if she needed help. She looked me over and held out a bag. "Can you do me a favor? Give this to Sarah, the resident of apartment 602. "No problem." She left as soon as I took the bag. I quickly went inside, carefully opened it, and found a white burial shroud and a note that read, "Welcome to the world of AIDS." What did this mean? Was Sarah infected? Did this woman come here that day specifically to infect Sarah? My mind was a mess. I turned around and went to the management office to look at the security footage from that day. As the video played, I saw the first time Sarah shook hands with her acquaintance. I saw a needle in the other woman's hand, and the look of pain on Sarah's face as she was pricked. After saving the footage, I looked back at the shroud in my hands, a smile spreading across my face. I never thought that while Sarah was trying to get me infected, she'd end up getting infected herself. Sarah called and asked when I was coming home. Hearing the faint sound of laughter in the background, I just said, "On my way," and hung up. After calling the police, I headed toward the apartment. Just as I expected, the door had been forced open. I stood outside and kicked the door. Daniel, who was inside, jumped up like a bear caught stealing food who'd just spotted more. He was both startled and excited. "What's up, family? The man himself is back. Smash that like button and Daniel will give you a first-person look at a guy with AIDS," he shouted, pointing the camera at me. I watched the viewer count jump and smiled. "Sarah, I wonder what your reaction will be when you find out you're the one who's infected." "What's this?" Daniel asked, eyeing the bag in my hand. I glanced at it. It was from Sarah's acquaintance, and since it was for her anyway, I just tossed it to them. The second the bag hit the floor, Daniel tore it open. Ah, isn't her husband supposed to be trying to save her life? Why would he buy something like this? Chill out, guys. If a guy like him died, it would be a public service. I opened Daniel's live stream and saw the comments were mostly positive, but all that changed the moment he opened the note. Wow, this guy is disgusting. Who would want to join him? Is he already planning to get revenge on his wife and the streamer? Daniel, get out of there! Daniel was stunned when he saw the note and looked at Sarah, not knowing what to do. Sarah reacted quickly. Alex, I know you're not like this. Don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'll always be by your side. I brought the divorce papers. Sign them. As I said that, the live stream chat erupted with questions again. At the same time, I saw Mark and his crew join the stream. Divorce? Alex, married couples are supposed to support each other. You're the one who married up. Since you moved into my house, I've paid for your food, your clothes, everything. What do you know about mutual support? Sarah's face turned red with embarrassment. Seeing the tide turning, Daniel quickly spoke up. So what are your plans, Alex? People in the neighborhood and at your company have some serious issues with you. I've gathered their feedback, and everyone agrees you should move out. At his words, the assistant cameraman and hype crew he'd brought with him all raised their hands in protest against me. If you keep living here, who knows when we'll get sick just from being around you. Get out of here. You're disgusting. Someone even spit in my direction. Who knows what kind of germs are in that? They all chimed in one after another and even started getting physical, pushing and shoving me. Daniel just smiled and aimed the camera right at me, waiting for me to lose my temper. To be fair, if someone who had just found out they were sick was treated like this, even the most patient person would snap. But I wasn't sick. The moment all the cameras turned on me, I pulled the hospital report from my pocket. You all keep saying I have AIDS, so what does this report say? Besides, when did I ever say this shroud was for me? I looked at Sarah with a smile. Sarah, this is from your old acquaintance. She wanted me to ask if your hand still hurts. As for the rest of you, I said, looking around at everyone in the room, you've been standing so close to her. You haven't already been infected, have you? At the mention of her hand hurting, Sarah instinctively looked down at her own hand, focusing on a single spot on her right palm. This small gesture made everyone who still had doubts jump back, terrified that Sarah might actually be sick. Daniel stared at Sarah, and the color drained from his face as a thought seemed to hit him. I knew what he was thinking. After Daniel had left my place last night, he had sent me a few more photos with a message. Your wife is a real firecracker. One box of condoms wasn't enough for the two of us. We even went at it again in the shower. Do you think she might already be pregnant with my child, Alex? I seem to recall that illegitimate children have inheritance rights, right? On behalf of my future child, thank you for your family's money. So if Sarah was infected, there was no way Daniel could have escaped it. Sarah, don't believe him. He's sick himself, so he thinks everyone else is too. By now, with Mark's help, the tone of the live stream had completely shifted. The chat was flooded with comments telling Sarah to get tested to make sure she was okay. Even Daniel turned on her, telling her to go, get tested. Sarah looked for someone to back her up, but the people she'd brought were just day laborers she'd paid. They weren't about to risk their health for her. Sarah, want to make a bet? If you test negative, I'll give you $1 million in the divorce settlement. At the mention of $1 million, Sarah suddenly calmed down. She looked at me. You're on. And all these people are witnesses. Sarah saw the viewer count on the live stream soaring. Daniel saw his follower count skyrocketing, and in his excitement quickly agreed. It's a deal! As we all headed to the hospital, the live stream chat split into two camps. One side believed Sarah was really infected. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bet $1 million. The other side thought it was just a stalling tactic, and that Sarah, being the one involved, couldn't possibly not know if she was sick. Once we were out of the apartment, I stopped paying attention to the live stream. Sarah's acquaintance hadn't left. She was following our group. Soon, we arrived at the hospital. Alex, even though I don't want your money, you still need to be taught a lesson. As your husband, you shouldn't have accused me like that in front of so many people. I couldn't be bothered to play along with her act. Seeing she wasn't getting a response, Sarah wisely shut her mouth. After the test, all we could do was wait. Daniel looked at the 6-figure viewer count, unable to hide his excitement. I'm going to be a huge influencer, I scoffed. He was certainly optimistic. It hadn't even been 24 hours yet when the success rate for Pippi is highest. Daniel stepped away from the live stream camera and came over to me, whispering, You're my lucky star, Alex. Before Sarah got with you, I had nothing. Now I've got clothes, bags, jewelry, and I'm about to become a rich and famous influencer. Aren't you afraid that when Sarah and I divorce, I'll make you give all that stuff back? You won't, Daniel said with absolute certainty. You're a nobody without your family's name. No one would even come to your funeral. I frowned. What kind of twisted logic was that? A short while later, the results were ready. 5 cameras zoomed in as everyone waited. Sarah looked confident. Alex, get that money ready. Let's see the report first. Fine. With that, Sarah flipped the report over. Positive. Ah. The moment the word positive was revealed, screams erupted all around us. The most panicked of all was Daniel. He forgot all about filming and immediately started begging the doctor to save him. How could this be? Sarah stared at the report in disbelief. This is impossible. You're the one who's supposed to be sick. You set me up, didn't you? She started to lose control, trying to grab someone to ask what was happening, but everyone, including Daniel, scrambled to get away from her. Just then, Sarah's acquaintance stepped forward. Sarah, we meet again. From their conversation, I learned the woman's name was Maria. Maria had had a rough life. She couldn't find a job because of her prosthetic left leg. Now that her parents were gone, there was no one to support her or buy her medication, so she had decided to end her life. But she couldn't bear to die without getting even, so she made a list of everyone who had ever bullied her. And Sarah was right at the top. Sarah, you haven't forgotten why my leg was removed, have you? That was years ago. It was an accident, Sarah yelled, getting angrier the more she looked at her positive test result. For one leg, you'd do this to me? She looked at the report, then at the people shrinking away from her, and flew into a rage, attacking Maria. The viewers in the live stream were completely stunned, never expecting so many twists and turns. I can't believe it. This woman intentionally tried to harm her husband. Glad she got what she deserved. Karma's a you-know-what. People like her should be locked up for life. I donated to her last live stream. Can I get a refund? Hey, has anyone noticed the streamer, Daniel? Why is he so scared now that Sarah's been diagnosed? Isn't it obvious? They were sleeping together. I smiled with satisfaction as I watched the comments change. Just then, my phone rang. It was the police, asking for my location. I told them where we were and that 2 of the people involved had AIDS. The police arrived in full protective gear and separated Sarah and Maria. Unsurprisingly, everyone was taken to the station for questioning. Being back there again, Sarah's reaction was completely different from last time. She seemed incredibly fragile. Honey, I'm so glad it wasn't you. After giving my statement, I not only sued Sarah, but also demanded she return the money she had spent on Daniel. His live stream had gone viral, and the news of Sarah's diagnosis spread so widely that she was fired from her job that same afternoon. Alex, I spoke with the lawyer, my dad told me, for knowingly spreading an infectious disease and intentionally violating your privacy. Sarah is definitely going to prison. I know, I replied, heading with the police to bring Daniel back from the hospital for his statement. Daniel was facing charges for violating my privacy, and since he couldn't afford to pay any damages, it looked like he was heading to prison, too. A month later, Sarah was sentenced to 8 years in prison, and Daniel got 1 year. On the same day, my divorce from Sarah was finalized. Honey, you'll wait for me, right? You should be more worried about Maria. I get the feeling she's not quite done with you yet. With that, I walked out of the prison. The sun was shining, and I knew I would never have anything to do with Sarah again.